Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by Rick Vavro and Austin Underground. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined each and every day by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Be sure to tell us where you're checking in from, what you're drinking, get your questions in. We're going to get to those here momentarily. But first, guys, some big news here. Sounds like Texas has a running back coach.
Yeah, I tell you what, we talked all week about, hey, we think this guy's involved or we know this guy's involved in being talked to, but that Sark might have something else in store that nobody's talked about. Well, guess what? We were right. Sark had something in store that nobody had been talking about. West Virginia running back coach Chad Scott is the new running backs coach at the University of Texas. Sark dipping his toes back into Big 12 territory to take Scott away from the Mountaineers. As you see here from his resume, guys, he was the offensive coordinator the last 2 years at West Virginia for Neil Brown. Rich Rodriguez retaking that job at West Virginia over the winter break. After that, he retained Chad Scott, so wanted to keep him. But Scott now comes on. He's a graduate of the University of North Carolina, played there for a couple of years, originally from Plant City, Florida, which Jerry will get into in the recruiting impact potential there. But this is your new running backs coach, Chad Scott. He's 43 years old, has been around the South. Kentucky spent 3 years at Texas Tech under Tommy Tuberville, recruited DeAndre Washington, as well as Kenny Williams, two running backs for them that played quite a long time for Tech. Jerry, what do you think of this hire? And Steve Sarkisian going back to his bag a little bit and choosing the guy he wanted, not necessarily the Rashad Samples big name guy. What do you think, man?
Yeah, by the way, Phil McIntosh, my voice is a little better. I think it's going to take a week, though. It'll start getting worse as the show goes on, I'm quite sure. But Chad Scott, look, I've ran across Chad Scott a few times doing the job nationally when I was going to schools in Florida a lot, because whether he was at North Carolina, Kentucky, in those years, he has recruited the state of Florida, obviously, his entire career. And now he gets to do it with a Texas shirt on. He's never had the ability to recruit the state of Florida with a blue blood shirt on. Now, when he was at North Carolina, and I'm here to tell you, he got two offensive linemen, William Barnes and I forget the other kid who ended up playing in the NFL, out of Apopka High. And at Apopka High was really talented then. And he beat out Georgia, Florida, Florida State, all those guys. He was the primary recruiter on both of those offensive linemen. He's got I've had like I said, I've ran into him a few times. He's going to be really good on the recruiting trail, especially Florida Southeast. We talked about it with the loss of Tashard Choice. He got Texas into Florida and into Georgia. Now, when Kenny Baker got to Texas, that gave him help in Georgia, because one man can't recruit in the state of Georgia, even in Atlanta, no matter the ties you have. But now with Chad Scott, along with Mark Orfe, who recruited Florida and Georgia for Rutgers, even though he's a Houston area guy, Texas has added two more guys that have a lot of connections in Florida and in Georgia in recruiting, and obviously Chad Scott in the state of North Carolina, if Texas ever really wants to dip their toes in there. But they've added that. But at the same time, Orfe went to North Shore. He's from the Houston area. He'll probably take over that Blake Gideon area. Chad Scott recruited Texas for many years, obviously at Texas Tech, and he's dabbled at West Virginia in Texas as well. I think it's a really strong hire from a recruiting geography perspective, especially. And these guys who are talented, now when they get to put on the Texas polo, it changes things for them, man. I mean, there's some people like, and I'm not saying anything on the chat or on TexasFootball.com or DMs I've got, it's underwhelming hire. I was like, man, who had Chris Jackson ever signed?
Yeah,
you're at Texas now, so this is about. Look, Sark had his pick of a lot of guys wanting in this job. USC guys, Tennessee guys. There's a lot of guys that wanted in on this job, and this is who he picked. So if you trust Sark's hires in the last 2 or 3 years at Texas, then you got to say, okay, he saw a lot in this guy, him and Kyle Flood and the offensive staff saw a lot in Chad Scott, because they could have had a number of guys. And by the way, you know how much they like him? He was already making $750 at West Virginia.
Yeah, he wasn't getting a pay decrease there.
No.
I think that, my take on it is somewhat similar to what you're saying, Jerry. Give the guy a shot. We don't know. A lot of these, everybody wants a home run hire. I don't think that that's the way the world works. Everybody can't be a home run hire. You have to build a team, and hopefully he's the start of this. I want to say that. I also think that it's interesting, Jerry, that he, again, goes back into that Georgia, Florida area for recruiting. It's clear Sark's going to be stubborn about that. And that leads us to some of the offers Texas made yesterday in recruiting. I mean, they are not giving up on parts of Florida and Georgia from a recruiting perspective. They really, went after some top-notch guys and offered them yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, look, Texas, I said yesterday, I put out an article on TexasFootball.com. Texas has made 23 new offers since January 13th in the 26 class. So Sark, they're continuing to look or scour the country for the best players they can find and prospects they can find. Yesterday, they offered 3 guys. And we're going to focus on Isaiah Williams out of Tavares, Florida. So Blake can play the tape here. And I'm here to tell you, Bobby and I very rarely get excited about the same guy initially. By the way, I don't know why the ambulance was sitting there. That was kind of wild. The ambulance, they must have known he was going to run through about 7 people here on this tape. But this guy will knock your joy mode in the dirt. I mean, this guy's an elite linebacker prospect. I found the new word I could use. He'll knock your joy mode in the dirt. So this guy's an elite prospect. I think he's going to end up being a 5-star linebacker prospect or right around it. Bobby, his range, his physicality. He's still raw in terms of technique, in terms of stance. He's not even maximizing that in a lot of ways, but he rushed for 400-plus yards. He had 125 tackles. I mean, he's one of those guys that does it all. Tavares, Florida, for those that don't know, northwest of Orlando. They put out some players in that area. There he goes.
Watch this one, Jerry. Watch this one.
He knocked the joy mode in the dirt.
Look at that shoulder dip to the quarterback.
Yeah,
that's what Colin Simmons does.
Yeah. No, this guy's an elite prospect. He's going to end up being one of the best linebackers. Ouch, man.
Watch this shoulder dip right here.
Yeah.
That dude had no chance.
No chance. No, this guy's
looking back like, what just happened to me, dude?
So here's the thing with this offer, and this is the battle for Texas. And I'll say this: Texas never had as many guys recruiting in Florida as they do now. They've never offered as many players. But here's the thing with an offer like this: he has 5 or 6 official visits already set. I put something out on TexasFootball.com. You're talking Penn State, Georgia, Florida State, one other. Okay, so Texas is going to have to get him on campus in the spring. No different than Tristan Keys. You got to get him on campus in the spring, and then you got to get an official visit, replace an official visit, get an official visit. Texas isn't going to do May official visit, so it'll have to be June or even take it into the season next year. But this is one of the best prospects in the country. They also offered Kamari Brooks, a 6'4", 225-pound edge prospect out of Bogart, Georgia, north of Coney. That'll be a fun trip. And he also is a really talented basketball player, probably maybe even a lower D1 level basketball player. This is where we were talking about, CJ and I were talking about on Recruiting Breakdown on Tuesday, that Alan Clark, the new edge pass rush specialist coach, he's being tasked with recruiting the edges. He'll get assists from Kenny Baker. There's Blake's map. Bring up your map of offers, Blake. That is so impressive. But so Alan Clark is going to be tasked with recruiting the edge position with assists from PK, Kenny Baker, and then obviously Sark's involved in some of those recruitments as well. But they offer Kamari Brooks out of Georgia. Georgia is absolutely loaded at linebacker and edge in 26. It's ridiculous. It's off the charts. Then Texas' third offer yesterday was Calvin Thomas, a 6'3", 210-pound linebacker at Cypress Ranch High, obviously in Cypress in the Houston area, west of the Houston area. He's a guy that was at Junior Day, January 20th. Texas really liked him. They were keeping tabs on him. They offered him yesterday. He picked up 20-plus offers since January. Texas A&M, LSU. You go down the list. We were exchanging messages last night. He will schedule an official visit to Texas. Texas will get an official visit out of him. I don't think there's any doubt about that. He's also teammates with one of the top junior defensive tackles in America, Amari Vickerson, who Texas is offering. He was at that junior day as well. Amari Vickerson will be a top 50 level type kid in the country in the 27 class. Somebody asked about Blaine Bradford. Blaine Bradford is the safety out of Baton Rouge Catholic. I don't know if he walks by and dabs Major Applewhite's picture on the wall there every day or not, but I do know his brother signed with LSU last year. So Blaine Bradford's a kid that Terry Joseph and Texas have been recruiting for almost 2 years. He's a safety ranked top 50 in the country out of Baton Rouge Catholic. He is scheduled to officially visit June 6th through 8th, but then he goes to Ohio State. Then he's got LSU on the 20th through 22nd. And again, his brother signed with LSU last year. Really good player. He's been on campus twice before. He likes Texas, but obviously that's what's higher than 110 high hurdle. It's a big hurdle that Texas has to jump over on this one.
Hey, Blake, we're looking at a map here, and you put this together for folks. What exactly is the map, Blake? Can you describe it for folks and let them see what that all means?
Yeah, definitely. So, and I put the link in the chat as well if anybody wants to go view it. But this is based off of Jerry's thread over on ontexasfootball.com yesterday. These are offers since January 13th. I will say I got to add the 3 that came in yesterday evening. I haven't put those on there. But once you go on there to that link I put on there, you can click on any of the points. It's going to give you the player, the position, and the school that they're at. But it definitely gives you a good visual representation of just how wide of a net they truly are casting.
Yeah, do me a favor. Delete. Take that white background off real quick. I just want to show people the whole map.
Yeah, let me switch to the other view. There you go.
Yeah, look, if you notice, there's 4 new offers in the state of Texas. What is that? 14 to 17 elsewhere, Jerry?
Yeah.
With the new one. So
yeah,
that gives you a sense of where Sark and his crew, when we start talking about look at the Southeast and up, I mean, it's pretty impressive and it's very poignant, I guess. You can tell where they're going. Ski
Breck asked, whose idea was this? This was all Blake Monroe.
Yes.
This was all Blake Monroe's idea. We will continue to add in. We'll also make a map of where the official visitors are from for June as we add to that. And we'll bring that up for you guys so you can see where the official visitors, what states they're going to be from, because there's now 25 official visits set with Blaine Bradford. So I'm sure Blake will make a map of that, and we can bring that up for reference for you guys as well as Blake Monroe continues to expand our recruiting horizons.
There we go. Hey, does that say Gulf of Mexico and Gulf of America, or what does it say down there? I'm kind of
hang on, let me switch to the other
I haven't
view.
seen
Gulf of America on that one.
There we go. All right. Yeah, there we go.
All right, guys. Well, before we move on, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell everyone out there about Rick Vavro and Austin Underground.
Yeah, absolutely. Rick has been a friend of the program for a long period of time. We appreciate him and his commitment to us at On Texas Football. Since 2004, Austin Underground has specialized in difficult underground commercial installations. The team's engineering background gives Austin Underground the ability to perform work other firms often consider too risky. If you see all those high rises going up in downtown Austin these days, somebody's got to do the underground work. That is Rick and his team. In a lot of instances, Rick and his team offer an end-to-end client experience, including seamless communication, budgeting, staffing, and top-notch trade partners. And most importantly, they produce solid quality work each and every time. That's Rick Vavro and his team at Austin Underground. Thank you very much, Rick, for your sponsorship of Coffee and Football.
I seriously, I'm going to give Blake another shout out. That is the best thing we've done in recruiting at OTF is Blake's idea for that map. That was awesome. People are giving a hat tip. I just want to double up on that. That's awesome because that gives a visual to all you guys that tune in every day where Texas is truly offering these guys and how many.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'm working on adding the other 3 right now, by the way. So I'll be on there here.
Great idea.
Don't forget to host the show while you're doing
it. And do all the other stuff in the back.
If your doorbell rings, it's your flowers.
There you go. All right, guys. Well, one of the other things that we were going to talk about this morning Tweet. Jerry, I'm going to let you give a little background, a little context for everybody. For
I just want to say this. So Coach Dirt, I know him. He is a 7-on-7 coach and assistant coach at Hollywood. Sean Madonna, no good players there, right? Derek Cooper, a guy named Jeremiah Smith and a few others. He coaches 7-on-7 with South Florida Express, the premier 7-on-7 team in the country. Jamie French played with that 7-on-7 team. So this is a good picture for me and you guys in the chat, because Jamie French is the typical Florida public school kid. He is going to get so much stronger. He is going to add such good weight to his frame. And he didn't come out skinny as a rail, not like a Calvin Ridley, who when I saw him in high school was 6'1", 157, 158 pounds when he played in the Under Armour game for us back in the ESPN days. Jamie French is around 180, 185 leaving high school. He has got that A.D. Mitchell physical upside frame. 6'2", 203, 205, with long arms, big hands. But I already see a difference in Jamie French physically. Now, I know his muscles are firing in this photo, right? It's like taking a track photo and me tweeting it out. Everybody's like, oh, my gosh, look at this guy. I get it. But I see a difference as somebody who went to that school to see him like 3 or 4 times, maybe 4 times during his recruitment. I see a difference with Jamie French already. He is going to look totally different than he did his senior year in high school by August. It's going to be fun to watch him progress, Bobby.
Yeah, this is one of those, and I sent this photo to you guys this morning because I thought the same thing. Because when we had him on, he already looks like this is what 3 square meals a day looks like, guys, and paying attention to your workouts and not necessarily just being left to your own devices, right? And, to Jerry's point, Jamie French had 75 different things going on when he was in Jacksonville, Florida. He had a bunch of stuff he's working on. Now he's just focused on football. Texas is going to get a more refined product once this thing comes to pass. But I wanted to put it out there also because it's a lot of people's first real look at Jamie French in Texas gear on the Texas field. It's the first time I remember him being seen other than a couple of practices during bowls. So good stuff there for Jamie French. Welcome to the 40 acres.
I have a prediction with Jamie French. Walking down Beeville Boulevard the next 3 years, he's going to be one of the best dressed too.
Really?
He's got a flair now. And he'll have after his NFL career is over, which I think he'll have one if he stays healthy. He'll end up on TV. He'll be one of the guys talking about football or whatever he wants to talk about. Great personality.
Interesting.
Flair. He's got the flair. He's got that kind of creative mind. We're really, really impressive kid.
Better than dress better than Sark? That's the real question.
Yes, and Sark won't like that. So he'll put him at the back of the line.
Sark will put him at the back of the line. He doesn't want to be on stage. I love it. Good stuff. Goodness.
And we got a question regarding French from Casey. Says, what's his wingspan and what about Lockett?
So I think Jamie French is around 78.5, 79, or maybe 78. So he's probably a +5, +6 wingspan. Khalil Lockett's wingspan is interesting. I think he's about 80. He's like Cade Phillips, so 6'1.5", 6'2", and about an 80-inch wingspan. Where Khalil Lockett is different, and I'll never forget this. The first time I went to Saxe High and shook his hand, I looked at his hand. I was like, "Oh my gosh!" He has 11-inch hands. He has got the biggest hands on a 6'1.5", 6'2" receiver I've ever seen in my life. It was like the first. I thought it was like shaking Kevin Durant's hand, like when I went to see Kevin Durant in the AAU in New Orleans when he was 16. And he shook my hand. I was like, holy hell, what is that thing? Like Khalil Lockett's got 11-inch hands. I think Jamie French is probably 9.5, maybe 9 3/4, but that's Khalil Lockett. So if you measure his wingspan counting his fingers, Khalil Lockett may be 81, 82.
And when you say +5 or +6, that's talking about on top of their height. A normal person's wingspan is essentially their height. So if you're
you're neutral. Yeah.
If you're 6 foot tall, you're 72 inches wingspan, right? When you say +5, that's however tall they are plus 5 inches on their wingspan.
Yeah.
That's an interesting category that not a lot of, everyday listeners may know that, but plus 5, plus 6, huge in that regard.
Yeah, you want plus 5, plus 6 for your wide receivers and your corners.
Corners, especially.
And linebackers in an ideal world.
Yeah.
Arm length at linebacker is very underrated.
And tackle.
Yeah.
But that's not underrated. That's just a known,
Right.
I think.
One of the other things that we were going to talk about this morning is Blake Helm, getting ready for the combine, guys. He's been in Nashville this week, working out with the multitude of players, including Vanderbilt quarterback Diego Pavia. And I'm going to play a little clip here.
Do you think they call him Uncle Pavia?
Uncle Pavia. He is the older statesman, right?
Hey, Gunnar Helm, like if you like smell something weird that you've never smelt before, that's Diego putting that Ben Gay on his elbow before he throws. Uncle Pavia, man, guy's been around a long time.
Show that again. Again. Let's watch that a couple times because that is Pavia throwing to him right there. You can kind of see in the background. I'm thinking when I saw this catch the first time when I was watching it, Jerry, I literally said he's going to tear an Achilles.
Yeah.
You know what I was like, how are these guys that athletic? I would tear both Achilles on that one play, I think. That's good that he's working out. He's getting ready for the combine. A lot of guys are getting ready for the combine. Andrew Makuba posted something yesterday about him working out for the combine. As we've mentioned, the Texas players will go next Thursday to the combine. The NFL combine starts Thursday through Sunday of next week up in Indianapolis. Our CJ Vogel will be there for us. He'll interview players as well as watch some of the participation, get a little behind the scenes look at some of the players up there. 14 total in all. Texas Longhorns going to be at the combine. That's a UT record, by the way. Congratulations to the university on that. But a lot of these guys getting ready to go up there and compete. So we'll be there and see what they can do. I hope they all have a good workout. Jerry, this leads me to this question. Who needs to have the best workout? Is it Isaiah Bond? Is he the one that has to have the best workout? Or is it someone like potentially Cam Williams? If Cam Williams has a great workout and shows great feet, can he slip into the first round?
I was going to say Alfred Collins.
Alfred Collins may be in that category for you. Does he have first round tape?
No. I'm not sure every guy has first round tape though.
Yeah, that's true.
Part of me is just hoping somehow that Alfred Collins is the last pick of the first round so we can reference our first shows where we used to say this guy's first round talent. Is he ever going to get there?
Yeah.
I'll be honest because I've been on that thing since high school with him. You just kind of wondered, but being projected as a second rounder now, if Alfred Collins or Cam Williams goes out and tests really well, shows really, I don't know where Cam Williams health wise is, so I can't really comment on that. But I think Isaiah Bond in the 40 and in the gauntlet drill is going to be really big for him because he needs to have a strong day after a sputter to end his college career. That just kind of thing sputtered and went away, and it didn't end great for him. He needs to have a really big day. But outside of that, Alfred Collins, Cam Williams, I think Alfred Collins, if he tests really well, he might move up a little bit more.
I think Jahdae Barron has to hold serve.
For sure. Matthew Golden.
Yeah, they just need to hold serve. So if Barron can run in the 4.4s, in high or low 4.4s, okay, or even 4.50, 4.5, right at that range, he's going to stay in that first round level because of his brain in football intelligence and playmaking. Matthew Golden, he runs low 4.4s. There's no doubt where he's going to go.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see where they.
I'm very interested to see what Golden runs.
How fast do you think he really is? I mean, we got to, last year we did our projections, by the way.
Right.
We did our projections on where everybody would run at the combine, how they would run, that sort of thing. And I think that when we talk about that, Jerry, we talk about, Xavier Word, that we all had 4.27, 4.29, things like that. Nobody had 4.21. Adonai Mitchell was the one that really shocked us.
Yes.
We were all like 4.42, 4.44, 4.35, And so it'll be interesting to see where those guys are.
The key is when these guys just train for a 40, they can cut off 0.05. If they just
really train hard.
If they train hard for a 40. Because I remember, like, in our days, like, with now super fast is super fast, they can just do whatever, right? But I remember doing when I was part of Under Armour camps, 90% of those guys didn't know how to get in the stance and really get off to a good start and maximize their first 10. So now that these guys with the trainers getting ready for pre-draft and all that, they can knock off 0.05 on their 40s a lot of time just by maximizing stance, start, and everything else. So if Matthew Golden doesn't run sub 4.5, I'd be surprised. His track times in his long jump in high school, and he's gotten faster since then, kind of leads you down that path. I think it's time for our special guest. What I've been very excited about, Blake.
I'm going to let you introduce him, Jerry, while I bring him in.
Yeah. So I reached out to Brandon Collier. I talked to him during JJ Hahn's recruitment. Brandon Collier is the founder of PPI Recruits. ESPN dubbed him the ambassador. But Brandon Collier is one of the guys that gets some of the most talented international prospects to the States to play college football. And we wanted to have Brandon on to talk about so he could tell Hero Canoe's story today. And Brandon, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate that. As you guys said, Brandon Collier, originally from Cleveland, Ohio, currently living in Frankfurt, Germany, but actually in Africa right now, in Gambia. So trying to find the next Hero Canoes and JJ Hane as well. So
I got to ask you this: how did you? So you basically are the guy that Jerry always talks about, who finds and perhaps places high school players, or even college, or even could be seniors or whatever they call them in Europe, and then bring them to the States and make them into college football players, where they do have some football over in Europe, but they don't have a lot. So how did you come about doing this, Brandon? And take us through the whole process.
Yeah, so of course I played football at UMass, had a short stint with the Philadelphia Eagles, and I played in Winnipeg for almost 2 years. Then I ended up getting hurt in Canada. So I had a friend of mine that was playing in Europe, so I actually came out to visit him, and I didn't know they had teams out here. Believe it or not, they've been playing football in Europe, in Germany especially, since after World War II when the Americans came over here. So it's much more popular than people think, especially even when I came over here for the first time. I think it's 2011, 2012, my first time in Europe. And I mean, the biggest reason I got into it, I think I was 26 or 27 at the time and played professional football. And I played out here, played a football game. And then after the game, it was a kid I was going against. He was a guard, man. He was pretty good. I didn't know who he was. And I asked, somebody said he's a kid is 16 or 17 years old. And I'm like, I mean, he probably was one of the best linemen that I went against out there. And he was only 16 or 17 years old. So I thought that, man, must be more and more guys in Europe and all over the world that's like this, that people just don't know, and they don't got the exposure to get to the next level. And that's kind of how my journey started in Europe. And as I said, believe it or not, I mean, it's in Germany alone where I live, I think I mean,
they stuck.
Go ahead.
You stuck for a little bit. You lagged a little bit. Brandon is all. Not sure if you still got us or not. Oh, looks like he lagged. You there now, Brandon?
Yeah, I hear you. Can you guys hear me?
We got you now. We got you now. I think it's better now. It just lagged for a second. Before just to make sure we get this in, can you tell us about Hero Canoe, the newest Longhorn, and how your relationship with him and how he came to the States, etc. Went to Ohio State originally, and that is now at Texas.
He was 14 years old. A teammate of or a kid that lived in the same town as him that I was working with reached out to me and said, "Man, I got a kid that's only 14, never."
Mm.
He's one of the better soccer players in Germany at his age, but he kind of outgrew it. So I took a trip to Germany.
I think this is gonna be hard.
Hold on. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second, guys.
Yeah, let's see if
I tell you what, I'll bring him out, and then
I will. Yeah, bring him out and then see if he can get going. I will say this is a first. I did not think somebody would be joining us from Gambia. Here, I think he's back now. He looks like he's back now. Let's go now.
I'm gonna bring him back again.
This is better now. Is it?
Yeah, a little bit better.
Okay, so is this better now?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if this worked. The internet service is not the best over here, so so just quick. Like I said, I met Hero when he was about 14 years old through a friend of his, and I took a trip to Munich to go see him, which is about 4 or 5 hours away. And man, he kind of blew me away being only 14 years old. The way how big he was and how athletic. Because I mean, he plays soccer, so he can bend and he can move. Agility was really really great. So that's kind of how I started his process. I made a call. I had a friend at Penn. Well, I played for the D-line coach at Penn State in college. So I called him and said, "Man, I got a kid in Germany that you got to see." So that's when he got his first scholarship, just basically off some film that I took of him in Germany, and that's kind of. Then I had one of my best friends, coaches at Santa Margarita High School in California. So I sent him there for 2 years, as I thought, okay, he doesn't play, so it's better he go there and develop at probably the best high school league in the country, the Trinity League, where he playing against Modern Day and all these top notch schools. So I sent him there. He had a very good junior season, and then going into his senior season, I took him on a camp tour where I took him to the U.S. probably to 15 different colleges, and he worked out every day at 15 different schools. And actually, we went to Texas during that time. He got an offer from them. And Sark knew him from then as well, and also he knew him from California because his son was recruiting out there as well. But he ended up committing to Ohio State. I thought he had a solid 3 years at Ohio State. I mean, wish he could have did better in terms of playing time and stuff like that. But again, he won a national championship, and they wanted to keep him there. He was going into the projected starter for them, but he thought that he fit more of an SEC type of D lineman. He thought that Texas, even coming out of high school, was one of them schools that he would want to go to. And when we went to visit, man, Coach Baker, PK, Coach PK. I mean, them guys were all in on him and showed him so much love. But I mean, I think Texas fans are getting I think they're getting an instant starter out of Hero.
That's good stuff. Hey, so also I got to ask you, there's more in the pipeline for you, right? Jerry said you have a player that's from either Germany or what's his name from in Virginia, Jerry?
Valdensohn.
Sweden.
Yeah, Sweden.
Oh, yeah, he's from Sweden. So he's from Sweden. So I mean, he got a similar story as Hero. I mean, I found him a little over a year ago. I mean, when I found him, he was only 230 pounds. Now he's 320 pounds. So he gained about 100 pounds in 1 year. I mean, believe and he still looked lean and athletic. So yeah, he's got an offer from Texas. We went up there when Hero went on his official visit. I brought Valding up there as well, and I mean, like I said, they was blown away by him and things like that. So I think Texas is definitely high on his radar.
Good stuff.
Hey, so Brandon, what is it? Or you don't bring over every kid you find. So what is the differentiator for you? I mean, what are you looking for with these kids outside of just the athletic talent?
Nah, I don't.
What are you looking for outside of just
I
the
mean,
athletic talent?
the toughness, of course, man. These guys fit to lead their home countries. I mean, as 15, 16. You guys hear me?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
got
we got you. We got you. I tell you what, Blake, this may be the end of this
Sorry,
one.
sorry,
That's
sorry
okay.
about.
Hey, Brandon, go do
Sorry
your
about
look.
my.
It's
No,
all
you're good.
good.
We're gonna have you on again, bud. We're
We'll
gonna
have you on again when you got better connection. But thank you for joining us, man.
We'll catch up again. Once my. Yeah, we'll catch up again.
We'll have
Hey,
you on
Thank you,
give
guys.
us a hookum from Gambia, by the way. Give us a hookum
Yes,
from
sir.
Gambia. All righty, man.
Yeah.
Y'all take care. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Brandon.
Yeah.
We tried there, Jerry. We tried. He still had some good stories.
Yeah, no. And hey, there you go, guys. Valden Sohn, the defensive lineman at Blue Ridge School in Dike, Virginia, who Kenny Baker offered, went to see him in January. I think to make an official visit to Texas. We'll see when that date gets set. But Hero Canoe, he has a fascinating business because we didn't get into that with him, but I wanted to get into, he doesn't bring every kid over. Like when I was at ESPN Under Armour, we had a camp in Cologne, Germany, which was an unbelievable experience. And there's some really talented kids over there. I think out of 200 kids we had at a camp, maybe 15 were Division One, legitimate Division One prospects. And I think 3 of those kids ended up coming over to the States and playing in college at the D1 level. And I was hoping we could get to that part of it, what the differentiator is for him, because he doesn't bring every kid over, because he's got to talk to the families. Those families, Bobby, have to trust that he's going to take their son and send them to and now Rancho Santa Margarita, they're worse places to go to high school, right? I mean, give me a break. But you're coming from Berlin or Munich, Germany to Southern California for high school, or Dike, Virginia for high school from Switzerland. And I know in
Sweden.
Sweden. People think differently there with boarding schools and things as such of kids growing up, but still, that is a long way to send your 16-year-old kid.
That is
May end up being an NFL player as part of it. That may be the payoff in the end of it. So I appreciate him giving it. I literally, in my lifetime, when we started on Texas football, I did not think anybody would ever be checking in from Gambia and us having a guest on from there. So that in itself was a treat at some level. Blake, what do we have next, buddy?
all right. Before we move on, I'm going to let Jerry tell everyone out there about Mando.
Whoa, boy, can I? Not that never mind. All right, Mando. You know, when you have a great product, when you have that product that's sent to you, and your kid sees it and said, that stuff's unbelievable, he takes it from you. That's what happened to me with the Mando, and he says it's amazing. All right, so what is Mando? It's a whole body deodorant, safe to use anywhere on your body. The pits, the balls, the thigh folds, the belly buttons, butt cracks, and the feet. You want me to say that again? I can, I won't. Created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. Mando is clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor up to 72 hours. Mando deodorant product options are a solid deodorant stick formulated and powered by mandelic acid to stop odor before it starts. And then there's the old spray deodorant, aluminum free, and ideal for those hard to reach places. We all have them. All products are baking soda free and paraben free. Choose from a variety of fresh scents like bourbon leather, clover woods, Mount Fuji, or my favorite, Pro Sport. Clinically proven to control odor than a shower with soap alone. Here's the key part of the read, people. 12 hours after a shower, the average man's grundle odor level was a 5 out of a 10. That's not good. With Mando, the average grundle odor level is a 0 out of a 10. That's very good. Want to try America's #1 whole body deodorant formula right now? You can find them at Walmart, Target, and other retailers across the country. For the best deals, go to shopmando.com. Mando starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant. 2 other free products of your choice, like mini body wash or deodorant wipes, and free shipping as a special offer to listeners. New customers get $5 off their starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code on Texas, all caps, at shopmando.com. Here's how I tell you why it works. I attended the Friendswood High School basketball game where I played, and the coach put a real stinker on the court Tuesday night at Lee College. I used my Mando, and I'm smelling good again after watching that crap.
Well, after you get to where you're smelling good with Mando, you also need to look good. And nobody's got time for stiff, uncomfortable clothes anymore. It's February. It's freezing cold outside right now. And you deserve to be comfortable in whatever you're wearing, no matter what you're doing. That's where Public Rec comes in. Their pants are a game changer. They're designed to be as comfy as your favorite sweats, but a lot more stylish. We're talking super soft fabric, no stiff seams, and enough stretch to keep up with whatever your day may throw at you. But Public Rec isn't just about pants. They have so many great style options, whether you're working all day in the office, running errands, or maybe just going out and grabbing a drink. Who doesn't want to look sharp without sacrificing comfort? They have a huge selection of high-quality, everyday premium styles. You can revamp your entire wardrobe with their perfect fitting polos, shorts, and hoodies. I'm here to tell you their hoodies are phenomenal. So this February, treat yourself right because comfort is always in season. Upgrade to Public Rec and feel the difference. For a limited amount of time, you can get 20% off at Public Rec by using code ONTEXAS at checkout. Just head to publicrec.com, use promo code ONTEXAS, and you'll be all set. And when they ask how you found them, be sure to mention our show. It really helps us out. We would definitely appreciate it. Find your perfect fit. Never compromise on comfort again. Public Rec, where comfort rules.
Jason Washington asks, does Mando replace Joy Mode? No, you get 2 for 1 here, baby. That one's coming up.
Hey, Jerry, I gotta say this. So some analysts, and I use that in quote for Jerry Hamilton here, are apologists for coaches, and some are apologists for players. Jerry is clearly an apologist for players. He just said that it was a stinker that the Friendswood coach put out there on Tuesday night, not the players. What about the players, Jerry? You're bagging on the coach when it could have been the players.
There's one thing I can't stand in coaching is a lack of offensive acumen and not understanding how to use timeouts at the end of quarters, at the end of halves. Your job in high school basketball, you can't roll the ball out and expect these kids to play like NBA players. You have to your part of your job is teaching them the game and putting them in the best positions to win. And as a guy who had blood, sweat, and tears at Friendswood, I ain't seeing it. Get better, dude.
Oh, wow.
You just had to press that button, Bobby.
I did. I hit a nerve. He's a player apologist now officially, though. I'm going to put that tag on him. I'm sorry, Jerry. Please forgive me.
All right, Jack, we got a super chat from Jack. Thank you, Jack. Beg to disagree, Bobby. When you hire right and you recruit right, everything becomes a home run.
You know, that there's I said that this may not be a home run hire or what have you. You're right. I mean, Chris Jackson wasn't looked at as that. I mean, getting someone from the Jacksonville Jaguars and bringing him from the pro ranks was pretty salty move by Steve Sarkisian. But Jerry put it really well, I thought. When you put the Texas logo on your shirt, it can mean a little more than it would at West Virginia, for example. No offense to West Virginia. They just don't have the storied history or the big state, et cetera, that maybe Texas does. Now, I will say this, he has to go out there and prove to be worthy of that and go out there and compete and win some recruitments and coach well and build relationships. Yeah. Like one of the things that I think is getting to be undervalued or should be valued more now that we are officially going to semi-pro football for college football. All these guys in that running back room they're making good money, right? This isn't where they only had a scholarship and room and board. They're now, known products at some level. So whoever Sark has as the leader of those rooms need to have more of that pro pedigree and be able to handle that sort of thing. So it's not just recruiting. One of the things we talk about is retention and building a room. And I think that we'll see. I don't know Chad Scott. Jerry's the one that's met him a couple of times. I have not. So, I just think that as Sark goes down, or as we all go down this new era of college football, having a coach that understands those sorts of things may be more meaningful than they ever were before. It may not be you want a guy that's 28 years old and, not really had to deal with people that made this much money before. Just putting that out there. So I feel like that's something that Sark's in tune to, and the reason why I think he's pretty judicious with who he brings on staff overall. Does his homework.
Yeah, what I like about Chad Scott is, again, Sark's going to hire really good football coaches. He's proven that. Kenny Baker, Chris Jackson, guys we've talked about, for sure choice. I really like that the continued expanding footprints in recruiting. If Texas can get 80 to 85% of their classes from Texas, Georgia, and Florida with the level of players they're recruiting, then you're going to have one of the most talented teams in college football every year. Then you add in your recruiting in SoCal, spot recruiting in Arizona when their talent's up in that state. Johnny Nanson's trying to get Texas into the Las Vegas area. There's two or three schools, Bishop Gorham being one, that are really talented out there. Then you get your Louisiana. Obviously, Alan Clark is from Baton Rouge. So another guy on staff from Louisiana, Brandon Harris, Terry Joseph, number of guys. Then Alabama. You get a dabble in Mississippi, which is a tough state to recruit. And you've seen Texas start to expand into North Carolina, which I think Chad Scott can help with if Texas wants to continue that, or if it's not just a one-off, because there's so many talented D linemen in North Carolina this class. But I really like the continued expanding recruiting geography for Texas in Georgia and in Florida, because I think there's real opportunities there for Texas. I think they can. Now, you have to cast a wide net. I think like Chad Scott, he'll have to recruit 15, 16 guys to get two really good ones. That's just part of it when you recruit out of state. But I really like a guy that's spent his whole career recruiting that state. He played at Plant City, recruiting that state. He's got a lot of connections in that state. And then I want to add to that. So we've talked about Orfe, obviously a North Shore guy. That Greg Schiano said, you're going to go recruit Florida and parts of Georgia for us. That's a strong sign for him. Chad Scott, same thing. But Aaron Joe, the general manager from Georgia Tech, coming over to Texas. He's a Lake Gibson guy, really talented, and one of the most talented towns in Florida. Also worked at, obviously, the Atlanta area in the state of Georgia as the GM for Georgia Tech in their recruiting efforts. Then Dunson, who came over from Memphis, is from Georgia as well. So Texas, all four of these hires, there are ties in recruiting to Georgia and Texas, or Georgia and Florida, Bobby, and that's a very good thing.
We got some, some follow-up questions regarding Scott. And a few people have wanted to know, such as Zane Petty here, was Chad Scott at North Carolina when Mac was there? Bobby shaking your head, no.
No, Mac was already at Texas. I think it was, if you'll put Chad Scott's resume back up.
Fedora.
Yeah.
It was the end of Fedora years.
Yeah, it's Larry Fedora. But put Chad Scott's resume. If you missed it earlier in the show, this is Chad Scott's resume. He played at North Carolina, I think 03 to 05, something like that. He was all ACC as a running back, I think his senior year. He originally signed with Kentucky out of high school before transferring, and that was back in the days when you had to sit out a year when you transferred. And then became he tried out a couple places in the NFL, didn't make it, really didn't stick, and then got into the coaching game. You see his resume, North Carolina grad assistant. Then he went to Troy, which is down in Alabama, Texas Tech for Tommy Tuberville, then back to Kentucky as both the running backs coach and run game coordinator. That was for Mark Stoops, I believe. Then you look at North Carolina back there, then West Virginia. Last 2 years, he spent as the offensive coordinator for Neil Brown at West Virginia. Now, Neil Brown is an offensive coach, and I think he still called the plays, for example. But it gives you an idea that how cherished or how valued he was, as does the idea that Rich Rodriguez, when he took the West Virginia job, actually kept Chad Scott on to continue to coach for the Mountaineers. So it's interesting. You look at it. He's got a very solid background, I think. All of those places, major D1 colleges. I think that's the pedigree you're looking for, because you know he's going to be able to do that when he gets into a place like Texas. He's prepared for it.
And so he signed some really good players at North Carolina. William Barnes was a guy, offensive lineman from Apopka. I mentioned him, and Ed Montelis from Apopka, cup of coffee in the NFL, offensive lineman. Apopka was probably the most as physical a high school practice as I've ever seen. Maybe John King at Longview compares to it. He signed to C.J. Cotman out of Clearwater, Florida, 4-star athlete as well at North Carolina. He's recruited. If you go down his list of who he was a primary recruiter of, it's all over the state of Florida for him. So, but especially in Orlando, Southwest Corridor. And why that's important is that's really where Tashard Choice was heavily recruiting for Texas.
I wanted to stay on Chad Scott for a moment, but we're having some people comment about Bill Norton now, so I think we better clear some things up there, Texas Beard. Did I see something about Bill Norton coming back, Osmosis Jones? Was it known that Bill Norton was returning before yesterday? Bobby, I'm going to let you burst that bubble.
Yeah, I hate to do this to folks. Bill Norton put out a tweet yesterday that was somewhat confusing. He was like, he's talking about his 6th year, etc. He is not returning. He then put out another tweet and said, "Hey, I know my tweet was confusing. I am out of eligibility." So Bill Norton and CJ actually reached out to him and got a direct message back from him. Bill Norton is not returning to Texas next year. So that's not the case. I wish it were, because with Hero Canoe and Travis Shaw and Cole Brevard, those guys would help the interior of the Texas. Adding Bill Norton would definitely help the interior of the Texas defensive line, but he is not returning next year. He says he's out of eligibility.
And so to add that, Texas, there's still a need. Probably we talked to Brandon Collie about Hero Canoe. Obviously, Travis Shaw, Cole Brevard are in. We still think there's one more spot that's left in the portal for Texas.
At defensive tackle.
Yeah.
More than that elsewhere. Wide receiver, we still believe. Tight end's going to get a look if the right person becomes available. Could look at a corner if the right person becomes available. And beyond that, we'll see if Texas goes for a running back, given the situation now with the uncertainty surrounding Cedric Baxter. But we'll see.
All right. And speaking of wide receivers, Frioli 93 says, in regards to fitting into Sark's scheme as Arch embarks on his first year as starting quarterback, which receiver is more important to have a breakout season? French or Lockett or even Dalen McCutcheon?
I don't know if there's a more important one. And this is why. I think the most important one is Ryan Wingo. If he takes the next step, because Jerry, I think he is the one that can take the next step, unquestionably. And I know you're asking me about freshmen, but I don't think any of the freshmen are necessarily important. It's just whoever does. And I will add this, it could also rely on injury there too. At what level does injury play a role in this if that happens? But right now, I think DeAndre Moore and Ryan Wingo are both, they've got to be locked in. I've said this. I hope Arch Manning takes Ryan Wingo with him on spring break. Wherever Arch Manning goes, I hope Ryan Wingo goes too. because if those two can develop a rapport, I think he's going to develop a rapport with DeAndre Moore. That's just the kind of receiver and worker DeAndre Moore is, I think. But if he can develop that sort of rapport with Ryan Wingo, that's going to help not only Arch Manning, it's going to help Ryan Wingo's draft stock, his value, etc. So we'll see what that means. But my thing right now is not necessarily focusing on those three freshmen. It's about Ryan Wingo and him taking that next step. Because if he takes that next step, I think we all know that he's just so talented. If he takes the next step, he's got a real chance, man.
Yeah, I mean, so as far as the freshman receivers, and I think, look, Dalen McCutcheon will develop in that DeAndre Moore role. But so when you're talking about French and Lockett, I think it's going to come down to French is farther along physically. Khalil Lockett's extremely talented. He's got longer to go in his physical maturity. He's a little younger kid as well. It's blocking. It's the pre-snap motions. It's making sure you're covering guys and not getting 5-yard pre-snap penalties. It's all those things before a play begins and then the blocking aspect after a play begins in the run game. Either one of those guys, as a young player in college football, if Arch throws a 50-50 back shoulder fade, either one of those guys can go compete and win for that football against even older players. They're that talented. Not going to say you're going to win them all, but you're going to win. But it's all the other things. It's the blocking. It's the picking up the scheme. Sark has to really be able to trust that you are not going to mess up the play pre-snap. If you can earn his trust that way, then you have a chance to get on the field. Remember when the season started, we talked about Ryan Wingo had 33% of the playbook in game one, and that grew over the course of the season. So who can get to that 33-40% of the playbook to where Sark trusts them in a role, right, and then expand as the season moves along? I think Jamie French is up for the task. And I'm not saying Khalil Lockett isn't. I think Khalil Lockett, the biggest thing for him is how much stronger does he get and how quick does he do that? Because he's very talented.
I've told you this, Jerry. I also heard Dalen McCutcheon is maybe that guy that may be more ready than any of them.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's going to do it. He may be the one that may be a step ahead from a route type stuff.
And we talked about this. I mean, guys that train with margin hooks for a couple of years, they're ahead in the route running game leaving high school. There's no doubt.
We're going to stay on the wide receiver talk for a little bit because we got, quite a few questions regarding that, such as Bobby T.D. Brown saying, how is Parker Livingston doing? And then I saw that he tweeted this out actually yesterday, or maybe it was this morning, one of the two. But my question to y'all is, number one, how's he doing? But what kind of year are y'all expecting from him?
Can he hold off the young bucks is the question, Jerry, right?
Yeah.
Because he's going to be a little bit more physical than those guys are. He's already been in the weight room a year and a half. You can see he's getting a little bit bigger. He's tall. And he's a good 50-50 ball catcher. And what's his rapport with Arch Manning? That's going to matter. I mean, I just went on and on about rapport with Ryan Wingo. Well, his rapport with Arch Manning matters too. I think that if I were a betting man right now going into fall or spring practice, Parker Livingston's your number 3 wide receiver behind DeAndre Moore and Ryan Wingo. Parker Livingston's number 3. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to stay number 3, but I don't necessarily think anybody's going to jump ahead of him at this point this spring. Maybe JB French, maybe. I just don't know. They all play different positions too.
Yeah.
And then our next question comes from text boy Teddy. Can Aaron Butler be the new Silas Bolden?
He's not as fast. I mean, Silas Bolden, would he run a 6.5, 60 or something like 6? I mean, I don't know if that's Aaron Butler. Like, I don't know where he's going to play out here. If there's any of those freshman receivers, there's two that have a little bit of an uphill climb. Aaron Butler and Freddie DeBose. Freddie DeBose is well chronicled because of his injuries. Okay. He's just got to get back and be more of a natural receiver. It's almost like the Troy O'Meara situation, Jerry, where he got injured a couple times and just never got his swag back and speed back to be an effective player at Texas. So I think that's the Freddie DeBose conundrum. Aaron Butler is a little bit different in that he finds himself in a scenario where he's a smaller guy that's got to play and be better than other guys that may be ranked ahead of him or were more highly recruited. And I don't know that he has the quickness of a Silas Bolden. Silas Bolden had and does have a lot of quickness. I am not trying to be a naysayer. He could prove me wrong, but I don't know where Aaron Butler fits right now. He's going to have to show us where he fits. It's a tall task for him, I think.
And Brandon Barr, hopefully that answered your super chat. Thank you for your super chat, by the way, on Freddie DeBose. So hopefully Bobby gave you a twofer there on that.
Well, Brandon, I hope he's back. I hope, Freddie, we want all these guys to succeed, including Aaron Butler, right? I mean, so I would like nothing more for him to prove us all wrong. The idea with Freddie DeBose is where is he really ever going to get? Because his knee injury has lingered. And typically when they linger, that's not a good long-term thing. I hope that's not the case for him. I really do.
Well, Jerry, tell us about a good short-term thing and let us know about Joy Mode.
Short-term.
You
just insulted a lot of
short-term for Jerry Hamilton.
Wow, Blake He insulted people. Hey, look, Joy Mode. Why Joy Mode? Say goodbye to weak erections with Joy Mode Sexual Performance Booster. This all-natural supplement is designed to enhance blood flow, sounds positive, giving you a firmer, more reliable erection. But Joy Mode isn't just about better sex. Daily use supports healthier blood vessels, sounds positive, boosts heart health, we want a great ticker, and enhances your athletic performance. We're throwing down like Matt McClung. Expertly formulated and backed by science, it's proven to improve erectile function by 50% in just 60 days or 2 months. If you like to look at the calendar a different way, simply mix a pack with water and feel the effects within 45 minutes. Take control with Joy Mode. Get a boost anytime, anywhere, and never miss a beat, period. Joy Mode features 4 simple proven ingredients, unlike prescription options that involve doctor visits and managing refills, pill bottles falling off the table everywhere. Nobody likes that. Joy Mode provides a straightforward, effective solution. Join over 200,000 men who trust Joy Mode to boost their performance without the side effects. Start a subscription and save up to 30%. Keep your performance at its best without any interruptions. If you're looking to take your game to the next level, visit tryjoymode.com and use code ONTEXAS, all caps, at checkout for 20% off single purchases and 30% off subscription orders. That's tryjoymode.com and use that code ONTEXAS, all caps, for 20% off single purchases and 30% off subscription orders. Since I'm in the giving compliments mood today, congrats Missouri basketball, baby. Y'all took your Joy Mode. 110 points against Alabama last night. Man, hats off. Cat tip, whatever, wow. Hat tip to y'all. 110 against Bama last night. Well, everybody had their Joy Mode.
And Bobby, if you'd be so kind to let us all know about Austin Underground one last time.
I don't know how to follow that up with another. Since 2004, Austin Underground has specialized in difficult underground commercial installations. Rick Vavro and his team's engineering background gives Austin Underground the ability to perform work other firms often consider too risky. They offer an end-to-end client experience, including seamless communication, budgeting, staffing, and top-notch trade partners. And most importantly, they produce solid quality work each and every time. A lot of that work you see being done down in downtown Austin, the underground work is often performed by our folks at Austin Underground. Also want to say this, if you're ever out in Jonestown on the lake and want to stop by, Rick is an entrepreneur who has started a bar out there called the Lone Star Bar. Stop by, have a few pops, Say hello to Rick and the crew. Again, that's Lone Star Bar out in Jonestown.
Thank you, Bobby. All right, guys, we got time for a few more questions or comments here. I'm going to start with another super chat from Jack. Thank you again, Jack. And Jack says, thank you, Bobby, for your honest answer. That's the great thing about OTF, honesty and knowledge.
Hook 'em. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Jerry's still a player apologist, though. That's my honest answer.
James Henson says, Bobby and Jerry, with targeting such an emphasis, why do they allow running backs to use the crown of their helmet against defensive players?
Good question.
That's a great question. I mean, I agree, Jerry. You want to take some of the risk out of it. Stop having running backs literally burrow their head into other opposing players. I mean, with the crown of their helmet. I don't know, James. I think that's a fair question.
Look, I think they're, from a pure football standpoint, this is some of the issue with targeting for me, is if you're a running back, you have to be able to drop your hips and drop your pads on contact. You can't let people hit you in the legs, else plays over. You have to create power to run through 250-pound guys coming to hit you or 210-pound safeties coming downhill. So you can't take away the element of drop hips, drop pads, create power to run through tackles. And from an athletic standpoint, it's going to be really hard for a player to drop hips, drop pads, and keep a head high. It's just not, that's not optimal for power, for creating power. And that's not the way you're going to play as an athlete. I don't know. It's a really good question, but from a running back perspective, those guys have to be able to protect their legs and create power. You have to keep people off your legs, off your knees.
Yeah, but the whole idea of like burrowing your head and like leaning, going in, blocking with the crown of your head, even. That's when something Keyshawn Judkins did against Jalen Gilbo in the national championship. I mean, he literally popped his head into the. I've said this before on this a couple different times over the years. Joe Paterno used to say, if you want to take targeting and use of the head as really a spear out of the game, he said, go back to leather helmets. He goes, when they had leather helmets, nobody was doing that because there were no face masks. If you did that, you'd end up with, you just would never do it. And he said what's happened was the face mask and the helmet has made it into a spear of sorts or a weapon. And what they're trying to take out of the game now is that as a weapon, but they're only doing it too often on the ball carrier, not on the ball carrier, but on the actual defender. They're not taking it out from the other side of the game or the opposing team, the offense, right? They're only taking it out, in my opinion, on the defense. To make it equitable, they need to do a better job of that, in my opinion. So, James, that's where I would come out on it.
And we will close with this question here. And I'm actually going to put up last year's standings so y'all can have a little point of reference. But Ryan Nelson says, Bobby, Jerry, who's your top 5 SEC teams in 2025? For Ryan, he says it's Texas, LSU, Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, in that order. But if y'all had to pick a 5, who's it going to be?
Man. So what's interesting about this? Let's go down this list. Texas, new starting quarterback. Georgia, new starting quarterback. Tennessee still has the inaccurate quarterback. Missouri, new starting quarterback. Ole Miss, new starting quarterback. Alabama, new starting quarterback. LSU with Nussmeier. Remember that. South Carolina, that guy, if he takes a step, watch out. But they lost a lot defensively. A&M, probably the same starter. DJ Lagway, year 2. Arkansas, same starter. Uncle Pavia at Vanderbilt's back. Oklahoma, new starter. Auburn, new starter. And I'm not sure it's an upgrade. Kentucky, new starter. Mississippi State, new starter. A lot of new starting quarterbacks in the SEC, Bobby. Georgia lost a lot defensively. They're going to be very interesting to me. I mean, they didn't just lose players. They lost playmakers, game changers. Jalen Walker, Malachi Starks, Michael Williams wasn't a great production guy, but they lost Warren Brinson. They lost the inside guys too. Georgia's, they're really talented. People are going to say, we could say the same thing about Texas on offense. Georgia's going to be interesting defensively for me. Are they going to be to the same level? I don't think they will be early in the season, but where will they be later in the season? Tennessee lost Dylan Sampson, really good player, by the way.
Yeah, he was their guy, because you're right about Nico. He's just not very accurate. I wrote down the teams that I think are going to be good. I'm worried about LSU on defense. I think they're going to be plenty good on offense. They got some really good skill players, Nussmeier included. Caden Durham, the running back's really talented. The team
they lose a lot on the offensive line, like Texas.
Yeah. What's Alabama going to do at quarterback, and how do they look with a different style of quarterback that probably fits more of what Kalen DeBoer likes to do? I look Florida, South Carolina, and LSU were none of those were in the top 5 last year. I think they've got a chance to be in the top 5 this year. I think Texas, and then I need to see who Georgia throws out there at quarterback, and Alabama. I mean, one of those two is going to be in the top 5, if not both. But I want to see who they've got at quarterback. Auburn, I would have put Auburn in there, but I don't think they have a quarterback. Well, Auburn's going to be very talented next year, by the way. But they've got who's their quarterback? Jackson Arnold? I mean, if that's the case, I'm not a believer. Anyways.
Hey, let's end with this super chat and bring up your recruiting, your new map, Blake. You added the new names to the offense.
I will. I did add it. And Jose, thank you for your super chat. Jerry, Bobby, why didn't Texas recruit nationally prior to Sark? Was Texas only talent enough back then?
Well, I think that they prioritized getting all of the top talent in the state of Texas under Mac Brown. And when you get all of the top talent in the state of Texas, it's more than enough. Blake and Jerry, in my opinion, it's more than enough. But what's happened is you're not getting all the top talent, and so it's not enough. My thought process on that is I think that Texas did spot recruit for a long period of time. They spot recruited Colorado, Bo Scaife, Lamar Houston, Tillman Holloway, you name it. They spot recruited Southern California with Ricky Williams, Bryant Westbrook. They've done all of that, but they've never gone as deep as what I think they're doing right now, to be honest.
I want to add.
That's it.
I want to add this. When Texas was in the Big 12, and I talked to kids, you just weren't going to go to Florida or Georgia and pull kids from SEC schools at Texas in the Big 12. It just wasn't going to happen. I mean, not like it is now. I mean, Cedric Baxter's not going to Texas if you're in the Big 12. I don't care if the Shard Choice is a coach or not. I don't think he's making that move. Would Arch Manning? I don't know. Would the state of Georgia, would the state of Florida be open to Texas? I mean, look, what happened when A&M went to the SEC? How many more kids started going to the SEC from Texas? But Texas wasn't part of that SEC. And when you talk to kids, that stuff mattered, man, because kids grew up. What did you see? I always say, like, from like age of 10 to 13 is like your age of influence. So like you kind of naturally go towards a conference, a team, maybe some players that you maybe idolize a little bit. These kids grew up even in this state, in the Southeast, in other parts of the country. They grew up watching Nick Saban dominate at Alabama, Georgia, and the SEC in the draft and win a lot of national awards. And Clemson won 2 national titles. Hell, they're almost an SEC team. They had a bunch of SEC kids on their team, region kids on their team. So that's what kids grew up and kind of gravitated to. And now that Texas is in the SEC, the games change. That Texas now goes to, and it helps that you're winning when you move to the SEC. Don't get me wrong, but the recruiting geography changed for the kids with Texas and for Texas with prospects, and that matters, I think, more than we could ever talk about. Just going out and talking to kids.
Just for the record, for those of you that didn't join us earlier, this is a map that Blake has created of the offers since the Texas Junior Day. So it gives you a sense of where Texas is kind of spreading out to from a recruiting perspective. And, you know, we talk about this. This isn't the only players that have been offered by Texas. There's only 5 guys in the state of Texas. They've offered many more. We'll do a complete map of that. But this is the recent offers since the post-January 20th Junior Day. And it gives you a sense of how and where Texas is spreading out to. Jerry, I want to add one last piece, if you don't mind. You mentioned other cities that Texas was looking at when you talked about Las Vegas and Arizona. Don't forget about St. Louis, which Ryan Wingo's from, and it's that's one that Texas could and should reach out into more, I think.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football, presented by Rick Vavro and Austin Underground. I want to thank Rick, along with Public Rec, Mando, and Joy Mode, all for sponsoring today's show. Of course, thank you all for tuning in. The great questions, the super chats. Be sure to head on over to ontexasfootball.com. Join in on the discussion over there. If you're not a member, you can use promo code OTFOG and get a full year, yes, an annual subscription for just $49.95. Again, promo code OTFG at ontexasfootball.com. And we would also appreciate if you'd hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell so you're notified anytime we go live, post content, whatever it may be between those two options. We'll have you covered around the clock. But what do you have later today, Bobby, right here on OTF?
Well, football theory coming up. Jeff Howe and Rod Babers get together to talk about that. And then we have the winning drive this afternoon. We've got special guests coming up. I just lined up for Saturday's conversation. I think that's going to be fun for folks. We've got a lot of stuff coming up over the next couple of days, 48, 72 hours. Also, don't forget, next week is the NFL Combine. We'll be covering that for you guys as well. But Chad Scott is the new running backs coach at the University of Texas. Congratulations to him, formerly at West Virginia. Also, we've got a basketball game coming up on Saturday, men heading to South Carolina. That's a must win for them as well. So we'll be managing and watching for all that. Baseball this weekend too, right, Blake? So all those things and more coming up for you guys.
That's right. Well, we'll be back same time, same place tomorrow. Hope you all have a great day. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you then.
Hook 'em.